They thought they could take everything from me, my home, my water, even my dignity, but they never expected I'd strike back where it hurt most, the lush green golf course they worshipped like a shrine. When the sprinklers stopped and the grass turned to dust, the HOA finally learned what real drought felt like. I never asked for a fight. All I wanted was peace. My little patch of land at the edge of the community wasn't much, but it was mine. I dug my own well years ago, pulling water straight from the earth. While others paid outrageous HOA fees for community resources, I lived self-sufficiently. It was my pride, my way of staying free in a place built on rules and control. But freedom doesn't sit well with people who crave power. The HOA board, a group of retirees with too much time and too little empathy, decided my well was a problem. They claimed it violated aesthetic standards, as if the sight of a small pump house was worse than their endless rows of gas-guzzling golf carts. They said I was undermining community values, but I knew the truth. My independence threatened their system. At first it was letters, formal notices stuffed in my mailbox, stamped with official HOA logos. Then came fines, climbing higher each week. I ignored them, thinking they'd eventually back down. But instead, they came harder. They called emergency meetings. They dragged my name across the neighborhood like I was some criminal. And then the final blow, a cease and desist order banning me from using my well entirely. The irony? While they strangled my water supply, the HOA poured thousands of gallons into their beloved golf course every single day. Green fairways in the middle of a drought-stricken county. Perfect lawns while families nearby rationed water. It was hypocrisy at its worst, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. The first few days after the ban nearly broke me. My garden withered. My bills skyrocketed as I was forced onto the HOA's overpriced water plan, and neighbors looked at me like I was some outlaw. My own community treated me like dirt, but anger has a way of sharpening the mind. And in that anger, I found clarity. If they wanted war, I would fight it on my terms. I started small, researching the golf course's irrigation system. Late nights scrolling through county records, mapping where pipes ran and which wells they drew from. Every HOA bragged about their state-of-the-art systems in newsletters, but what they didn't brag about was how fragile those systems really were. One weak point, one disruption, and the whole operation collapsed. Still, I hesitated. I wasn't a criminal. I wasn't out to hurt anyone. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized. This wasn't just about me. It was about fairness. They had stripped me of my right to live freely, all while wasting resources the rest of us were punished for conserving. No, this wasn't just payback. This was justice. The night I made my move, the air was heavy with humidity, and the sprinklers were hissing across the fairways like snakes. I slipped into the maintenance zone, a shadow among shadows. Every sound made my heart pound, but I kept moving. At the pump station, I found what I was looking for, the control valves. With one twist, the pressure dropped. Another twist, and the system gasped like a dying animal. By morning, the sprinklers never came on. Day after day, the grass browned under the sun. At first, the board dismissed it as technical issues. But when golfers started complaining, when photos of dead patches spread online, panic set in. Meetings grew heated. HOA members argued with each other. All the while, I stayed quiet, watching from my porch as their empire of green turned to dust. But revenge never comes clean. The deeper the drought on that course grew, the more the community cracked. Fees rose even higher as they scrambled for emergency repairs. Lawsuits flew between contractors. And soon, whispers began, maybe the board wasn't as invincible as it claimed. For once, people began questioning the rules they'd blindly obeyed. The climax came one sweltering afternoon when the HOA president himself stormed up to my property. His face was red, not from the sun but from humiliation. The golf course was gone, a wasteland of brittle straw where emerald grass once stretched. He pointed his finger, shouting that I had destroyed everything. But as neighbors gathered, listening, I finally spoke. "Destroyed everything?" I said. "No, you destroyed yourselves. You took away my water while wasting enough to flood a town. You called me selfish, but who's selfish now? When your vanity cost us all." Silence fell. For the first time, the power shifted. Not in secret meetings, not in fines or threats, but right there in the open as everyone saw the truth. The board wasn't protecting the community, they were feeding their own pride. In the weeks that followed, the HOA fractured. Members resigned. Fees dropped. And though my well was never officially reinstated, no one dared challenge me again. My garden bloomed once more, watered by the same earth they had tried to deny me. Sometimes I walk past that dead golf course, now abandoned and quiet. The land is dry, but in its emptiness, I see victory. Not just for me, but for everyone who ever felt crushed by power-hungry rules. Because here's the truth. They can take your money, your comfort, even your peace, but if you stand firm, they can't take your will to fight back. So, I'll leave you with this question. If the people in charge strip you of your rights, how far would you go to take them back?